So I've been talking recently about, I guess, just the phrase mental health, and I think in the first instance just what a bad rep mental health gets as a label, and it's wholeheartedly misunderstood. And I think the topic of conversation that I've been sharing is one of how we shift the label, how we shift that label from actually mental health being an illness to actually being something that we participate in. And so a couple of things that I've offered, suggested, for the military perspective, one of the things that we have is the Army Physical Training Corps, or the Royal Army Physical Training Corps, PTIs. You'll all have your own view on PTIs. They used to scare the shit out of me when I first joined. But the point here is we've got somebody and a corps that focuses on health, physical health. They get trained in nutrition. They get trained in how to, to train, to motivate. And so, if you think about it in that concept, why not just add a practitioner level of wellness, of understanding the basics of how do we improve mental health? How do we focus on positivity? How do we operate under pressure? Often it's just left to pre-deployment, and again, I'm very cautious that, over the years that I've been out, I dare say there's been a lot of advances in it. But the one thing I know about the military, and one thing it does incredibly well, is it complicates everything. It goes to an academic level, and trust me when I say soldiers don't get that. They don't understand it. That's why I wrote 5 and 20s. So if you start focusing more on how we educate and who does that, who does the education, I think actually what will happen is you'll start to shift the narrative. You'll start to help people truly, and soldiers, the boys and girls in the military, you'll help them to understand it, and it becomes a part of the education. But it's being, delivered by a corps that could become expert in it. Now, if that's already happening, brilliant, I'll shut up. But I suspect it probably isn't. And I suspect that it's being left to, academics to come in and look at it in depth and detail and scientifically. Look, we're all of us studiers of the human condition, and that, with that in mind, we all understand what goes on in our heads. So if we then offer some go-tos on holding the mirror up, on good practice to strengthen the mental muscle, your brain, it's got to be a win-win. And it doesn't need to be complex. It doesn't need to be challenging. It doesn't need to have a label that is wholeheartedly misunderstood. So that's kind of like what I'm espousing at the moment, is really just how we get that message out there, and maybe how we start that process of creating a level of education in the military that really does start from day one, rather than just jumping into day one in the gym and just focusing on physical health. Wrap it up. Create the core that actually does look after the holistic body in its entirety, from what fuel they put in, to how they strengthen it, to how they work on motivating themselves, on mindfulness, on positivity, on overcoming negativity, on operating under pressure. So that's kind of like my thoughts, and I'd be really interested to know what your thoughts are, what you think on that. Anyway, there you go. That's have a great day wherever you are, whatever you're doing.